You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the week of March 1st, 2024. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where wild up and down 60-degree temperature fluctuations is just our way of preparing for Super Tuesday. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal. Well, that's just how we do things out here in the cornfield, baby.
Yeah, and Trump's not on the ballot at the moment, so, we made it through February.
Yay.
And
we did it.
Chicago judge took Trump off the ballot here, so we'll be all right.
I'm sorry, that's a Cook County judge, honey.
I know, and there were blue checks showing her picture on Twitter.
Isn't like Chicago and Cook County are almost synonymous, darling. They are. They're basically the same thing. But yep. So that's good news. FYI. In case you didn't know it, we switched up our regular monthly Science Fiction University podcast this month for a review of all the many, many versions of the Maltese Falcon. There are 3 of them. And whether or not Monsieur Spade, which is streaming currently, is a worthy successor and sequel. Also, by the time this is posted, I will have been on the Bradcast with Brad and Desi and Digby. And I wonder how I did, Blue Gal. I wonder how
you did, Driftglass. Yeah. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We heard from a listener via Twitter. Blue Gal, I hope you and Mr. Electrico are planning another desperation podcast like the one you did at Thanksgiving last year. Some of us could use it right about now.
Yeah.
To which I replied, no, you're going to get Edna Mode instead.
My God, pull yourself together! What will you do? Is this a question? You will show him you remember that he is Mr. Incredible, and you will remind him who you are. Well, you know where he is. Go, confront the problem. Fight. Win!
I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of news that happened this week.
Yes.
I keep thinking of my favorite line from a movie that unfortunately was executive produced by Steven Mnuchin.
Yeah.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's a great movie.
Yes, it is.
Despite Steven Mnuchin's name in the credits at the end.
And a terrible title. Yeah.
Great movie. And my favorite line in that movie is near the end where Tom Cruise looks at Emily Blunt and says, "We've been through worse."
Yeah. We've been through worse.
And you and I look at one another when he says that.
Yeah.
Like, we've been through worse.
Well, and I wrote a long post this week, today as a matter of fact, and about Both Sides Do It, about a new Both Sides Do It program on News Nation that friend of the pod, Jay Rosen, talked about. And I said in my post, it feels like just yesterday when I wrote this and Both Sides is poison and it's terrible, et cetera, I said, but it wasn't 2 days ago. It wasn't yesterday. It was 2 days ago. That's why it feels like yesterday. But on the other hand, I've been writing that same thing for 19 years.
Yeah, right.
And 19 years is an awfully long time to look into the abyss and see that the news media is broken, the Republican Party is insane, and they are not moving in the right direction. And just to see this storm coming on from a long distance and, banging our little drum and shouting and waving our arms. But, we're still here. We're still here doing this thing. And, this week, the Supreme Court announced more or less they are going to run interference with Donald Trump. They're going to side with him. They're going to put their big meaty MAGA hand on the scale of justice. And they're going to run interference for him right up until the 2024 election. So that's very clarifying, or at least it should be. It's just us now.
Yep.
It's a straight up voter fight. And they're going to fight dirty, and they're going to use voter intimidation, and they might come armed. And we know some things for a fact. The courts will not save us. All those 180 whatever judges that Joe Biden has appointed, that's great. But every one of those judges can be overruled by the Supreme Court, who are clearly now in the hands of psychopaths and corrupt monsters.
That's right. They are corrupt.
The Republican House is a lunatic asylum.
Mhm.
The Senate is barely functional. With Mitch McConnell leaving, it is even less functional, which is hard to believe, but yeah. And the media is broken beyond all repair. There is no way to fix the media. Maybe someday it'll get better. Maybe someday some other model will come along, but the media is simply broken beyond our ability to deal with. So it's just us voters, and it's just us activists, and that's it. We are the cavalry. We are the last line of defense.
Get to work, folks.
Yep.
That's it. That's our job. Speaking of the media, there is someone out there doing the Lord's work. The Daily Beast's Roger Sullenberger is on the Win Red train, watching Donald Trump's FEC filings for, Make America Great Again PAC and all of those. And he really did some excellent digging into the FEC records. It is important to put these into English, however, and Ellen at Crooks and Liars did that. And here's what she wrote. It appears the Trump team has engaged in some creative accounting, exploiting structural and regulatory nuances to report an artificially low refund rate. The tactic, it seems, accounts for refunded donations through mathematics without engaging in financial transfers that would trigger reporting requirements. In other words, the campaign may have found a way to make refunds disappear thanks to the fungible property of money. And they had to refund a great deal of money in early 2021 after the election was over because they had charged, using WinRed, people multiple times, using monthly charges and in some cases weekly charges when the person only authorized a one-time charge. And they're crooks, folks.
Yeah, they're crooks. Crooks and liars, if you will.
Oh, yeah. They're crooks and liars. Yes, they are.
And speaking of crooks, Mitch McConnell's leaving. And that was the big news yesterday or the day before. And I had two initial reactions. The first was, believe it or not, my first reaction was Hyman Roth is not Meyer Lansky. Allow me to explain.
Please.
Hyman Roth is a character in Godfather 2, the mob accountant. And, your father respected Hyman Roth. Your father worked with Hyman Roth, but he never trusted Hyman Roth. That Hyman Roth. Okay. And Hyman Roth in the movie was gunned down at the airport on the orders of Michael Corleone. Shot to death. Corrupt guy, bad guy. They're all bad guys. Everyone in the movie's bad guy. Shot to death, got his just desserts, coming back from Israel at the airport. Hyman Roth is based roughly on the character, actual person named Meyer Lansky, who was a Jewish mobster, who was the mob's accountant, who was the friend of Bugsy Siegel. Very similar in every respect. But Meyer Lansky did not get gunned down at an airport on his way back from Israel. Mm-hmm. Meyer Lansky died in his bed at the age of 80 with $57,000 or so in the bank, even though the FBI still suspects that he had or has hundreds of millions of dollars stashed all over the world that they never caught up with. In a better world, in the fictional world that I would write, Mitch McConnell would be hauled off in irons, would be disgraced and humiliated, would his life would be destroyed, his wife would leave him, and we'd find him drunk, sad, dispossessed, sitting in a hotel room with 5 cents to his name, with his name mud, shit, all over the planet, and he can't go anywhere, and everyone has deserted him. I'm not going to say he has, a shotgun in his hand and is contemplating anything, but I will say he's an evil, evil man who deserves the worst possible things that can happen to evil people. But this is not a movie. Yeah. And like Meyer Lansky, he's going to die at home in bed with money in the bank.
Yep.
He will never see justice. Nothing will ever happen to him other than eventually retiring. I mean, he's breaking down physically and mentally as a human being. But, Dick Cheney is never going to go to The Hague as a war criminal. George Bush is never going to go to The Hague as a war criminal. Bad people are never going to do time in this world. Lots of bad people get away with a lot of shit. Look at the roster of your favorite Never-Trumpers and remind yourself of the positions they took during the Iraq War and ask yourself, did they ever miss a meal? Did they ever miss a paycheck? Were they ever harmed for the shit they did? And the answer is no. So our system is set up in a way that sometimes there's justice. Sometimes things happen in a way that, we can all go, that guy got his, but that's not going to happen.
Well, and that's a tale as old as time.
It is. It absolutely is.
I mean, you look at the Beatitudes, and blessed are they that hunger and thirst after righteousness.
Uh-huh.
It's not because you got righteousness in this world.
No, you're going to get it eventually.
You're going to wait. They're promising you in the next world you'll get it. But
right.
the injustice and the crying out and the lamentations. It's all scriptural.
It's all
absolutely scriptural.
Powerful people generally are dispossessed from power by palace coups and assassinations. I mean, that's just
when
the
possible.
Case throughout human history.
Not in any way. Yeah, there is no justice in this world for wealthy, powerful people.
They didn't serve Julius Caesar with a subpoena.
No, they didn't.
They took him out. They took his ass out. And how did that work out for them? Not very well. Not good, Bob. Not good. Yes. No, and most tyrants and czars, etc., they got blown up or they got shot or whatever,
replaced by other tyrants.
Yeah,
yeah. It's
the reaction that gave me my dark gallows humor laughing time was the never Trump reaction to Mitch McConnell. Now I am in possession of an original. You can buy this as an NFT if you'd like. An original Rick Wilson tweet from February of 2016 in which he practically demands that Mitch McConnell steal the Supreme Court seat from Barack Obama. We have the power. We should just do it. And when someone asked him, geez, you're just nothing but an obstructionist, right? He just rolled his eyes and went, yawn. Like, fuck you, liberal. We have the power to do this shit. We have the power to fuck you over, and we're just going to fuck you over. Up until shortly after that, these assholes loved Mitch McConnell because Mitch McConnell was throwing sand in the gears of the Barack Obama political machine. He was stopping legislation. He was fucking up the trying to pass anything. He was filibustering his own bills. He was obstructionist. He was Dr. No, and they loved him for it. Right up until he started working for Donald Trump, and that's when they all decided Mitch McConnell's a monster. No, he's the same guy he was 10 minutes ago. He's just doing shit to you that he was doing to us. And when he was doing it to us, you loved it. And that's the problem. So now there's this whole wringing of hands about the Mitch McConnell legacy. Who's going to go down as the worst person. Well, no, if he had dropped dead in April of 2016, you people would have statues built to him. You'd have monuments. You'd name high schools after him, even though he was the same evil motherfucker that he was 10 minutes ago. So the idea that only now that potato day has come, do you notice what an evil bastard Mitch McConnell is? So those are my two reactions. Mitch McConnell, he'll still be in the Senate, and you can still urinate on his urinal cakes in your privacy of your bathroom.
Privacy of your own bathroom. Tape his picture on the inside lid of the toilet seat. Yeah,
go nuts.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the reality.
A couple things came across my attention span this week that I wanted to share because you might have missed them. One is to remember that the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have released a report about all of Donald Trump's emoluments. And it's a very long, detailed paper hard copy of everything, all the money he's taken from overseas governments.
Right.
If, God forbid, Donald Trump should, by hook and crook, get reelected, they're ready to impeach him again. And they will be impeaching him for that. And they should have done that. I mean, they're porn star hush money and emoluments are the things that I think it's expected to be impeached for. And he was kind of surprised that it was the Zelensky call that they finally said, yeah, we're going to beat you. But there are overwhelming adequate grounds to impeach him again for the third time and remove him from office. So that makes the congressional elections and the Senate elections extraordinarily important as well.
I would only add that they can try to impeach him. They're never going to remove him from office.
Well, we'll see.
Because you require what in the Senate to remove someone?
2/3, right?
Yep. And that's never going to happen.
That's never going to happen.
They can do it, but it's like Star Trek 5. It's like, we've seen it's a crappy version of the same movie we've tried over. And remember, the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to him.
Oh, I know.
The,
I know.
The 25th Amendment doesn't apply to him. And anytime a constitution, it says plain text in the Constitution, this thing is the law, and if you break it, you have violated the Constitution. Republicans just say, yeah, that doesn't really count. I mean, they did that with Bush, remember?
It's like Hannity deciding that only a Republican can go to the border. You know, there's just these complete double standards.
Well, and
how dare Joe Biden go to the border? Next up, I'm interviewing Donald Trump at the border.
You remember that George W. Bush talked shit about the full faith and credit of the United States government, which is an impeachable offense.
Yes, it is.
And Al Franken said, you can impeach him for that, right? It's right in the Constitution. But let's face it, there are whole sections of the Constitution that these originalist constitutional lawyers won't touch. Just like that doesn't really count. That didn't really mean that. That's sort of ish. That's sort of constitutional ish.
If you're a Republican.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The other thing is from another podcast, Cleanup on Aisle 45 brought this up, and this is Pete Strzok's podcast about Alan Weisselberg's mob severance package.
Yeah.
And this is Alan Weisselberg is the former CFO of the Trump organization.
Right.
Who is in prison right now.
He's the mob accountant. He's the Hyman
mob
Roth.
accountant.
Yeah.
He is in prison right now. He's at Rikers.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a severance package from the Trump organization, which was written and signed and admitted to be signed by Eric, who, only does concrete and is really just day-to-day operations. He's not anything to do with any of the big thinking.
No.
But he said, I have no disagreement with Mr. Weisselberg. This is Eric Trump. I was the person who did this. I was the person who signed it. I was the person who negotiated. Took full credit, took full responsibility, if you will.
Yeah.
The agreement paid Alan Weisselberg $2 million in installments. The Trump CFO is prohibited in this agreement from disparaging the Trump organization, even to his own attorneys. And Eric Trump said, well, this is just boilerplate. This is a boilerplate, which it is in the Trump organization.
Yeah, it's standard mob stuff, just
you
standard mob stuff.
You have a non-disclosure agreement. You're not allowed to talk smack about the company to anybody. And when they deposed Eric and said, does that include the Attorney General of the state of New York? He said, are you disparaging us? Yes, you are. No, we're prosecuting you for crimes.
Yeah, they don't recognize that as a valid thing.
No.
It's just an insult.
And here's the other coinky dink. The $2 million promised to Weisselberg dovetailed with the $2 million in back taxes, interest, and other penalties owed due to the ex-CFO's 2022 conviction for tax fraud. Dollar for dollar. This did not escape the notice of the New York Attorney General's office, with attorneys also pointing to language barring Weisselberg from disparaging his former employer. There is substantial evidence that the agreement, quote, was negotiated to compensate him for his continued non-cooperation with, legal authorities, right?
It's a bribe.
So, as a result of the Judge Engeron ruling, Weisselberg is required to pay the $1 million he has presently received as part of his $2 million severance agreement back to the state as, quote, ill-gotten gains.
Yeah.
And he's not going to get any more money from the Trump organization.
No. There'll be no
and it's interesting how that announcement coincides with Weisselberg deciding to negotiate a plea deal regarding lying to the court. I may have committed some light perjury.
Your Honor,
I'm an olive oil manufacturer. Yeah. What do you want? The FBI says this, the FBI says that.
FBI told me this, a little bit that. I said, whatever, it's okay. And now all that's gone. They took all his money away. Yes, and now his choice is, maybe they'll take
he's in prison for nothing. He's in prison for
being a chump.
For being a chump. Right,
and,
right.
Maybe Tom Hagen will visit him and remind him that if you go to the bathroom and run yourself a nice tub, we'll take care of your family.
Yeah,
But
no.
this
That's
is
not
how.
going to happen.
No, that's in the movies, honey. That
That's
doesn't
in the
ever happen in
movies,
real
like
life.
we said. The Godfather is not real life.
You know what else is in real life?
What?
What I see on TV, in the news. There's a sensible lawyer lady named Barbara McQuaid. She's on.
We love her.
We love
do.
her. She's great, and she was on with Lawrence O'Donnell, who is very good at certain things. So he's very good at summarizing and encapsulating things in a narrative form that require summation and clear explanation. He's very good at that. And she was on his show and had a book to plug, and maybe it's a good book and maybe it's not. I don't know. But honestly, what she was spouting on NBC was moonshine, was sheer bullshit. It was nice of her to say these things, but it was so incredibly naive that I had to wonder what was actually going on here, because I credit her with knowing better than the words that were coming out of her mouth. She talked about how, we have to be open-handed and let's all work together and value truth over things and the party things. And, liberals need to show grace to these Republicans and not rub their noses in the things that they've done before. Yeah,
I keep hearing this.
I've been hearing this since the Obama administration.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. Ms. McQuaid, we tried this already. It was called the Obama administration. We tried all those things. We tried showing them grace. We tried being open-hearted. Barack Obama bent over backwards, sideways, and went on down and bended knee and begged them to pass their own bills so we could, keep people from dying and save the economy. And they told him to go fuck himself. And the result was an 8-year racist primal scream by these people that we're all supposed to show grace to. And then they elected Trump. And then they renominated him and tried to reelect him. And they're going to nominate him again. So the question is, why is it always us on the left that are required to show grace and be understanding and listen to their fucking point of view? I know their fucking point of view. It comes vomiting out of the radios here all day long.
Oh, yeah.
You and I were out the other day. What did we find? We're at the bank, right? Little in the little alcove.
Drive-through alcove
where you
turns
can't
off the satellite radio.
And so we go to local AM radio. What are they talking about? Oh, it's conservative talk radio. FM. Oh, it's conservative talk radio. So please don't tell me that we don't know what's on their minds. We know exactly what's on their minds. We live among them. And yet it's always us who have to be the grown-ups, who have to be the adults. And in your case, being the adult means not making them feel bad for being racist assholes. And I think it's time we started making them feel real bad about being racist assholes.
The white privilege gets to rebrand too when they make a mistake.
Instead, the people who are, remember, the party of personal responsibility? Well, apparently Ms. McQuaid never, and people like her, never expect those people to be anything more than raging toddlers who have no agency, have no control over their bodily functions, and are never responsible for the terrible things they say or do. All of that falls to us, Blue Gal. All of those adult things are all the Democrats' responsibility, and the Republican Party, nothing can be done about them. They can't control them. Well, fine. If that's true, why can't I say that? If the Republican Party is this way, why can't I say that? And I, in addition to that, I wrote a very long thing this week about David Brooks. And
oh no,
yeah,
not David Brooks.
Well, he's on again about how bad people with college degrees and liberals make non-college educated white voters feel. We're snooty and uppity and so on and so forth, and how Democrats need to try a different thing. We were smart because Hillary Clinton. The reason Hillary Clinton lost in 2016 was that she disparaged the working class. And I took the first paragraph. Democrats learned from Hillary's mistakes in 2016, and I went, wait a minute, what actually caused her to lose? Was it the head of the FBI fucking her over in the last 11 days of the campaign? Was it 20 years of slander from the right? Was it all the both sides do it bullshit? Was it the Russia? Was it the relentless attacks on her by everyone in the fucking media because they knew she was going to win, so it was going to be safe? No, it was her disparaging the working class. And so Democrats got smart and they nominated Joe Biden because Joe Biden doesn't have a college degree. And people on the right, they hate the people. For the first time in 36 years, the Democrats didn't nominate someone, the parties didn't nominate someone with a Yale or Harvard degree. Now, wait a minute. George H.W. Bush had a degree from Harvard, and he won. George W. Bush won. He has a Yale degree. Ted Cruz has degrees from everywhere, and they fucking love that guy. J.D. Vance has degrees from everywhere. They fucking love it. What the hell are you talking about? And it's a roundabout way of saying the same thing that David Brooks was saying during the 2016 campaign, which was the reason these people hate you is not because they're racist. My goodness, no. It's because they have economic anxiety. They feel bad. They feel poo-poo heads about things. And so he's gone fully back to that. And you know what? He's right. Do I pass severe moral judgment on people who are racist? Yes, I do. When they vote for the same tyrant 3 times and learn fucking nothing except they love this guy and they hate this country, yes, I also pass harsh judgment on those xenophobes and the homophobes and the gun nuts and the assholes and the Christopaths and the fascists, all of whom are fucking Republicans, David. All of them in the same party. And you know what happens, Mr. Brooks, when you take out all those people, take out the racists and the white supremacists and the Christopaths, you know who's left? Like 200 rich assholes who read David Brooks columns. That's it. That's it. And who want to believe that they're not really that party. As you said during our discussion of this podcast, Blue Gal, you know who's left when you take out all those people? Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, if you want to continue to believe that Mitt Romney feels aggrieved that we all call him, bad names for associating himself with those people, that's fine. But the people in that party, Mr. Brooks and Ms. McQuaid, are very bad people, or they're very stupid people. And I'm sick and tired of being told I can't call them by their true names when they have no responsibility for learning a goddamn thing outside of their own bigotry. And they could have saved themselves this horror by just changing the goddamn channel at some point in the last 20 years. Yep. So, anyway, moving on.
Moving on. Once again, Drift Class Republican primaries are lit.
Yeah.
But when I said lit, I didn't know we were talking about literal burning crosses. Darrell McClanahan III is running for governor of Missouri. Guess which party?
Yeah.
And he says he was only an honorary KKK member.
Yeah.
But he is a pro-white man.
Yeah. Who
acknowledges that, yes, he did go to a, quote, religious Christian identity cross-lighting ceremony.
It was beautiful. It was very touching.
It was very touching. Tears in my eyes.
You sure he's not pro-Whitman, like Slim Whitman?
No, he's pro-white man,
White
he
man.
said.
Yeah.
Okay. And, he's a crackpot. He's not at the top of anybody's poll numbers or anything.
But guess which
he is
party?
A Republican.
He's a fucking Republican. Mm-hmm.
And Drift Class, you know how the old joke about Catholic girls getting pregnant by falling on a penis somewhere accidentally? They just tripped and oops.
They had a sip of holy wine and fell over and their skirts shot up and they fell on a penis. Yep. Happens all the time.
All the time. Well, it seems to be happening with Carrie Lake and QAnon fundraising. This is from the Daily Beast. MAGA acolyte Carrie Lake is set to attend a fundraiser hosted by a QAnon conspiracy promoter on Thursday. The Arizona Republic reported. Lake, a failed Arizona gubernatorial candidate who is now running for Kyrsten Sinema's Senate seat, will appear alongside high-ranking Republican Senator John Barrasso, Republican of Wyoming, at a fundraiser hosted by Brad and Monica Little. The latter, Little, has shared multiple conspiracy theory posts across Truth Social and Facebook since 2021, including a post that features screenshots of Q-Source material suggesting that the TV show The Simpsons contains evidence that a satanic cult of elites runs the world. The fringe QAnon theory holds that Donald Trump is fighting a ring of satanic child sex traffickers embedded deep within the government. Several other Republican leaders sought to distance themselves from the conspiracy once its bonkers beliefs became known. Notice they're still all endorsing Trump, though.
Sure, yeah.
That hasn't stopped Lake, who attended another fundraiser hosted by 2 different QAnon supporters earlier this month.
Come be lit, Blue Gal.
Lit.
It is lit. It is currently lit.
And we've said many times, her opponent, Ruben Gallego, his tagline is, I'm not Carrie Lake.
Yeah, I'm not Carrie Lake. And the Michigan primary just passed, and we won't go into that other than it was hilarious watching them tear themselves apart to decide who the real Republican Party is up in Michigan.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And tomorrow, Saturday is their caucuses.
Yeah.
And they have two parties. It is a literal civil war in the Michigan Republican Party right now.
Yeah. Which one is the anti-pope? We'll find out on Tuesday, I guess.
On Saturday. Yeah,
on Saturday.
Right.
You do news roundup, Luke?
Sure, let's do a news roundup. The President Bidening continues. The internet reacts to Mitch McConnell announcing that he doesn't want to be in charge of the Senate wing of the fascist party anymore.
Yeah, it might ruin his reputation, you know. Shannon Watts on the internet says that Senator Mitch McConnell's legacy will be that he purposefully undermined America's first black president, he broke the Supreme Court, he helped elect a fascist president, and he abetted an insurrection on American soil.
James Fallows wrote, Mitch McConnell will be seen as one of the most destructive figures in U.S. history. Among his achievements, ensured that the Senate would block any gun legislation after the Newtown Sandy Hook AR-15 massacre.
Yeah. Digby sums up really well, as usual. His legacy as the gravedigger of democracy is secure.
And various others noted that Mitch McConnell is the reason why the United States hasn't passed a renewed Voting Rights Act, hasn't passed democracy reform. He is the reason why Donald Trump is still eligible to run for office. Mm-hmm. He had the opportunity to end this nightmare and remove him from office, but he didn't.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell is the reason why Roe versus Wade was overturned and why IVF is now illegal in Alabama.
McConnell is responsible for turning the U.S. Senate into the House of Representatives.
Yeah, he sure is. McConnell has never been a friend of labor, the environment, or responsive to climate change.
History, if it remembers him at all, will remember him for the things he did and the things he prevented.
He put his own ambitions before the needs of the United States whenever he could.
And finally, I drew the short straw here.
Yes,
and
you
so
did.
I have to read what Jonathan Turley wrote.
Yes, you do.
McConnell just finished a powerful and moving speech announcing his intention to step down as majority leader. This elegant address harkens back to a time when senators often rose above politics and offered transcendent messages for the nation as a whole. McConnell was always a conservative committed to securing or maintaining GOP majorities. However, he was also someone who repeatedly acted in defense of the Constitution and the institution. I have had the privilege of working with the senator for many years, and I have never seen his equal as a master tactician, despite the rage and insults that characterize our times. McConnell represents a generation where decorum and civility had a place in our politics. Bullshit.
Yeah, quiet, gentlemanly racism. That's fine. Yeah. It's called the Confederacy. Yeah,
Jonathan Turley's really lost his goddamn mind.
Jonathan Turley. I mean, Keith Olbermann every so often just apologize. I had this guy on. I put him on. His brain is snapped. I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah.
That's happened to a lot of people. They just can't deal with their reality around them, and they just decide, screw it. I'm gonna roll up with the Nazis.
No, yeah.
They pay well. Senator Mike Braun has some advice for Mitch McConnell. Quote, he needs to come out strongly for Trump, even though he might have to bite his tongue to do that. Don't fight it. You got to go along with it.
And what did you say on Twitter? Lie back and think of Moscow?
Lie back and think of Moscow. That's the advice he's giving to Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell will follow it, I'm sure.
Remember last week when Democrats won a special election and flipped George Santos' seat in the House?
Yeah.
Tom Suozzi defeated Republican Massey Phillip to take the seat vacated by Santos, who was indicted on a charge of fraud and then expelled from Congress. It took until today for Mike Moses Johnson to swear the new congressman into office.
That's awesome.
Now, you wanted to say something about that.
Yeah, in that very, very long post he did about Mr. David Brooks of the New York Times, one of the things he's said when he was talking about how Democrats need to basically stop being so goddamn liberal and educated and embrace, white working class, the white working classes, which, nobody's been a better manufacturing president than Joe Biden. The best one before Joe Biden was a guy named Barack Obama. The problem with that is not the white working class. The problem is all the racism, et cetera. But David Brooks is just not good at writing these things and backing them up with data. Mm-hmm. So he cherry picks data that is adjacent to his point or irrelevant to his point and infers a lot of shit. And he came down and said, well, look at this guy, Tom Suozzi. He won by embracing white working class values and issues like crime and the border. And he made a big deal about the fact that Democrats need to be more like that. That's how they should be. And what else did Tom Suozzi run on again? I forget.
Abortion.
Yeah, Teen Vogue did a whole write-up about how abortion is a great voting issue. Look at Tom Suozzi. But for some reason, David Brooks couldn't bring himself to mention the fact that the third pillar of Tom Suozzi's campaign was pro-abortion, because that fucks up his whole narrative. So he decided just to leave it out. Again, he's inventing a political party that doesn't exist because he can't deal with the fact that the party he was actually a part of is a horribly racist shithole of bigots and imbeciles.
And misogynist.
Oh, there's a whole long list, Blue Guy. Just go read the post. The court upholds an order to make My Pillow guy pay up. This is actually from Crooks and Liars. I think it's from your colleague Capper.
Okay.
I think so. In a nutshell, Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, claimed that he had evidence that supported the big lie and offered $5 million to anyone who could debunk his evidence. Seidman, a cybersecurity pro, did just that. But then Lindell tried to stiff Seidman, so they took it to arbitration. The arbiter ruled that Lindell needed to cough up the cash. But of course, what happens next? If you're a Trump acolyte, then Lindell tried to stiff Seidman again. So off they went to federal court, where Lindell asked the judge to overturn the arbiter that he had agreed to. However, that is easier said than done. After a limited review, the judge issued a 12-page order that Lindell has to make good on his promise.
Pay that man his money.
NBC Nightly News interviewed a CPAC attendee who happened to also be a January 6th Capitol rioter who recorded herself on January 6th saying that they were looking for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, quote, to shoot her in the frickin' brain, unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And, NBC News didn't do any research to try to find out who this person was. They just talked to her as, a CPAC attendee just like yourself.
Mm-hmm. Just another Republican in a diner. That's all.
Yeah, right. And all those Republican voter panels where you find out all of them are Republican activists and treasurers of state parties and whatever else. Yeah. In other late-breaking CPAC news, Nazis. Actual Nazis at CPAC. Yep.
Yeah, they feel warmly welcomed there. The Anti-Defamation League, I can't believe this story is true.
We had to look this up twice to make sure it's true.
The ADL will honor Jared Kushner at its conference next month, describing his work on Israel as pivotal for hostage negotiations with Hamas.
They're giving Jared Kushner an award.
All right, moving on.
Voters in Lauren Boebert's quote-unquote new district must be thinking they're not bringing their best. Very sad. Boebert's 18-year-old son, Tyler, was arrested yesterday and is facing 22 charges, including several felonies related to credit card theft. And all these are in her old district where she still lives.
Yeah.
Now, John Fetterman, Senator of Pennsylvania, Democrat, tweeted, "This is a family in crisis, and the recreational cruelty I see on social media needs to be out of bounds. I know the impact this has on children. I'm calling for restraint because cruelty has substantial collateral damage. We can't ever forget that they didn't sign up for this."
Fair enough.
And I guess he means the Boebert children didn't sign up for this.
Absolutely, yeah.
But here's the deal. As I replied on Twitter, Boebert modeled this behavior for her son. She lied on her mileage reports to use campaign dollars to pay off her restaurant lien. She continually lies about the Biden family and Hunter Biden.
Mm-hmm.
She is a grifter who cheats others to advance her interests.
Mm-hmm.
It is not recreational cruelty to point that out.
No. She's a terrible mother.
She's a bad mother.
Yeah.
And I say that, saying what I said.
Mm-hmm.
I referred back with someone else who was saying, we have to be better than this, to a post I wrote in 2008 about Sarah Palin.
Right.
Using her disabled child as a prop.
Yeah. Yep.
And, this is bad motherhood. And
yes, it is.
Calling that out as some, as long as you preach in church and, I'm not perfect, I'm just forgiven bullshit, you're okay on the right. But it's not okay. It's not okay to be this kind of parenting is goddamn hard.
Right. And you know what?
I have not been a perfect parent. I don't think anyone is a perfect parent, but your kids are watching you at all times. And if you show that it's perfectly okay to rip off your campaign donors $22,000 because you need it for your failing restaurant, your kids see that and think, well, I can go do credit card fraud then.
And Fetterman's right. Recreational cruelty on social media is out of bounds. It does have an impact on children. And being a horrible, grifting mother who lies all the time also has a pretty awful impact on children.
And your position as a U.S. congressperson.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're screaming all the time at State of the Unions and then doing fundraising texts the minute you get out of that building.
Well, you know what? Let's move on from the House of Representatives to the House of Representatives, Blue Gal. Speaker Mike Johnson was unequivocally clear that he wants to avoid a government shutdown during an intense private meeting with Biden and other congressional leaders. I don't know this to be true, but I heard that Kamala Harris batted him around in there like a cat toy. But I can't prove it, but I want to believe it's true. Translation, Democrats have this man's balls in a vice. Biden summoned the top 4 leaders of Congress to the White House with 4 days to go until the federal funding partially runs out. Quote, I think that it's Congress's responsibility to fund the government, Biden said. We've got to get about doing it. A shutdown would damage the economy significantly, which he will hang around their neck like an albatross.
Right. Exactly.
I think we can all agree to that, and we need bipartisan solutions, unquote. Little bit of an after to this story. A bipartisan deal brokered on Wednesday will give Congress until March 8th. Yay! To pass 6 spending bills lawmakers have finalized, and until March 22nd to pass another 6 bills still in negotiations that provide crucial funding for defense, healthcare, and homeland security.
2 additional things about that.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell was at that meeting.
Yep.
And I am positive that he has pulled Moses aside and said, whatever you do, a government shutdown gets blamed on Republicans.
Yes. Absolutely.
And the reason it gets blamed on Republicans is Republicans brag about it.
And they're to blame for it.
And they're to blame for it.
Yeah.
And the other thing that keeps coming up is Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
Who desperately wants a government shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
We should have a government shutdown until the border is secure.
Well,
it's like, what?
Here's the thing. How does Bannon describe himself? What's the term he uses for himself? He says he's a Leninist. And you know what he is? He absolutely is.
Yeah.
His goal is to create chaos and revolution
right.
and destroy the government and take it over. And he's very clear about that.
Yep.
And he's been really successful so far in positioning himself in places where he can influence that.
And he's way more powerful and influential than the current Speaker of the House.
Yes, he is.
The former FBI informant charged with lying about the Bidens will be held in custody indefinitely because he poses a significant flight risk.
He does.
Federal prosecutors indicted Alexander Smirnov on February 14th for falsely telling the FBI that a Ukrainian energy company had paid bribes to Biden and his son Hunter. After he was arrested for the first time, he said he had $6,000 in cash available to him. Turned out he had $6 million available to him.
Yeah,
and judges don't like being lied to, so he is in jail now for ever. You know,
especially being lied to about a subject involving your ability to run away.
Exactly, and fly away to a country that does not return you.
A third Alabama fertility clinic stopped in vitro fertilization following the state Supreme Court's ruling that frozen embryos are children. By classifying cryopreserved embryos, quote unquote, as children, the ruling opens families, clinics, and doctors up to wrongful death lawsuits. Joe Biden called the ruling, quote, a direct result of overturning of Roe versus Wade, adding, quote, the disregard for women's ability to make these decisions for themselves and their families is outrageous and unacceptable. But Democrats can't message, Blue Gal. They're so bad at messaging.
They're so bad at messaging.
Yeah.
There is a religious kink in right-wing circles, whether it's Catholic or evangelical.
There really is.
That every single embryo, every time a sacred sperm fertilizes an egg, that's the possibility of the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, just rent The Life of Brian, and you'll understand. Yeah.
And the fact is that for those folks, every fertilized egg is a possible Jesus that you're killing. And so they are forcing their religious kink on the rest of us.
Yep.
And this is a separation of church and state issue.
Yep.
But, Republicans now have blocked the bill to protect access to IVF. Senate Republicans blocked an effort Wednesday to pass legislation that would federally protect access to in vitro fertilization. Senator Tammy Duckworth, who has 2 daughters born via IVF, she is our senator from Illinois, good Democrat, sought to pass the bill by unanimous consent, which meant that any one senator could object and scuttle the effort. Quote, in this nightmarish moment, it's nowhere near enough to send out a vaguely worded tweet claiming you care about women's rights, despite your voting record to the contrary, Duckworth said on the Senate floor. And so they got Cindy Hyde-Smith, the lynching lady from Mississippi, to stand up and object because she doesn't agree with everything in the bill.
You could clone people. You could make parents, a lot of parents, different parents. You could, human hybrids. Who knows? It's too dangerous. Can't have it. Not in the Bible. And, God bless her for doing that. This is another issue where Tammy Duckworth very purposely put this up for unanimous consent, daring the Republicans, any of them, to open their big, fat, dumb mouths and
they
object
did.
to it. And they walked right into it. And
they picked someone who's not up for re-election this year.
Right.
And they picked a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she did it real sweetly, like a good Eva Brown should.
Doesn't matter.
And now it hangs around their necks.
Republicans blocked IVF protection. Period.
Bury them.
Full stop.
Bury them.
Speaking of Republicans in the Tennessee House passed a bill to ban displaying pride flags in public school classrooms on behalf of those snowflake parents who are concerned about the display. The bill would prohibit public schools from displaying flags other than the U.S. flag and the Tennessee state flag. Womp womp.
It'll be real interesting to see the lawsuit then if a student group decides they want to fly a pride flag as part of a student arrangement.
Yep, and that's coming. You just know that's coming. That's coming.
Yep, test case. A Republican Oklahoma state senator called the LGBTQ plus community, quote unquote, filth.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how special. Following the death of 16-year-old non-binary student Nex Benedict, who died after a fight in a high school bathroom. We are a Republican state, Tom Woods said at a legislative forum. I'm going to vote my district. I'm going to vote my values. I'm going to kill children. Oh, he didn't say that. He just said, I'm going to vote my values. And we don't want that in the state of Oklahoma. I represent a constituency that doesn't want that filth in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Separately, the Oklahoma school superintendent, Ryan Walters, he's the one that is bringing PragerU into the classroom over and over again.
Of course he is.
Claimed that, quote, radical leftists, unquote, had created a narrative about Nex's death that, quote, hasn't been true, unquote.
Yeah.
I guarantee you we're going to find out about that in court when they do a wrongful death lawsuit on the school.
Oklahoma, man. You just don't hear enough about it. Now, this is very exciting because Trump claimed, quote, the black people, unquote, like him because they can relate to his criminal prosecutions and mugshot. Isn't that nice? Yeah, he's
tells you everything you need to know.
After repeatedly citing the 91 felony counts he faces, including racketeering, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and falsifying business records, Trump said, quote, a lot of people said that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually view me as I'm being discriminated against. In a speech to the Black Conservative Federation, all 9 of them, Trump continued, quote, when I did the mugshot in Atlanta, that mugshot is number 1, adding the black population, quote, embraced it more than anyone else. I'm being indicted for you, the black population. The Biden campaign, meanwhile, called Trump an anti-black tyrant and the proud poster boy for modern racism. And goddamn is that. But you know what? To be fair, Blue Gal.
The basketball shoes will make black
if we were just
people
open-hearted enough and showed him grace, maybe he'd stop being a lying, racist scumbag asshole.
Yeah, let's show him some grace. Sure.
Maybe it's our fault. Maybe it's our fault, Blue Gal. Maybe it's our fault. Did you consider that? You think about that? Huh?
Biden suggested that the current Republicans in Congress are worse than the real racists he served with as a senator in the 70s, including segregationist Strom Thurmond.
Mm-hmm.
Biden said Thurmond did terrible things, but at least you could work with some of these guys. Biden added that the current generation of Republicans have become a party of chaos and division. These guys do not believe in basic democratic principles.
Yep.
Well, they're fundraising off of the chaos.
Right. And, Strom Thurmond just fundraised off of hating black people.
Right.
Not like not getting roads built or anything else like that.
Right.
Now, in local news, here's a fun story. We have this thing here called a grocery tax, which is a 1-cent tax on every dollar you spend on groceries.
And it's shameful that Illinois has that. Right.
And our governor, Governor Pritzker, best governor, wants to get rid of it. He was asked at a press conference this week, quote, "Are you willing to reconsider this because it's going to hurt communities across the state of Illinois by taking away that source of revenue," unquote. And his answer, in short, was, "Oh, no. Quote, "No, I'm not willing to reconsider it. Here's what I'm saying about the grocery tax. It's the most regressive tax you could have. Really, we think about all the regressive taxes that exist in the state of Illinois. This one goes after people who are just trying to buy food. When you say, oh, it's $1 out of every 100, well, that could be hundreds of dollars for a family across a year. So, that matters to many people. And the grocery tax, by the way, we're in the vast minority of states that still have a grocery tax. Almost every other state has gotten rid of their grocery tax. We still have one. That's not right. Now, municipalities, I absolutely believe that the state should be supporting municipalities. And indeed, as long as I've been governor, we've added $1.3 billion to the coffers of local governments across the state. That didn't happen under my predecessor. Just hang a lantern on it, man. It's because I believe in investing in local government. It's closest to the people. They deserve to have the kind of funding that they need to support local projects and local government, but the grocery tax doesn't seem like the best way to do it. And this is the part that made me smile. But I want to be clear. I have said that the bill that would be put forward should include the ability for local governments, if they want to impose a grocery tax to their local residents, they should be able to do so. I don't think it's the right thing to do, unquote. So that's what the local mayors are pissed about.
Yep.
That's what they're pissed about. Not that the revenues would go away, but that it would make them the bad guys and not Pritzker. It puts the burden on them to raise taxes or not as they see fit, which most of them rather eat a live skunk ass backwards than ever do.
Yep.
And that's what they're mad about.
And they're going to have to put a tax on real estate, which their wealthy donors aren't going to like.
They really don't want to do that. And it's like, sorry, man, if you want to raise taxes for your local municipality, we give local governments at the state level lots of money. But if you need a little bit more, I understand that. Feel free to do so. But, be an adult and take responsibility for your decisions and actions and go to your residents, go to your community.
There are so many local officials in the farmlands who are red as red can be.
Yeah.
Who blame Pritzker, blame Chicago.
For everything.
Blame Cook County for all the problems.
We're
just getting rid of this 1-cent tax, which, yes, the money often goes to you.
Uh-huh.
And you aren't going to be able to bitch about Pritzker taxing you too much over it.
Yeah. Yep.
Each week we post to our Facebook page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is Peanut. And you're going to think this picture of Peanut is me asking Bing's artificial intelligence image generator to make a photo of an orange cat lounging like he's one of your French girls in the Titanic.
It's pretty impressive.
He's lounging on his back in the most suggestive way.
Oh.
But hey, he's comfortable and his face just says, "What?"
What? What?
And of course, Peanut eats freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve pet store perfection or dollar store dreck, your cat will sit on the kitchen floor and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured.
Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh my Lord, it's freshly poured.
And you can visit Peanut at our Facebook page or website, and you can send your Internet Kitty dog or any other pet you like. And it doesn't have to be your pet, even. If you have a child that has a pet, if you have a cousin that has a pet, and they're willing to send in a picture on your behalf, go for it.
Go for it.
Send it to our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com. Use subject line Internet Kitty. And that's also the email address you can write to both of us at proleftpodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go Postal Unions! Hey, go Starbucks unions, too.
Hell yeah.
Starbucks relented this week, and they're going to be negotiating with the union. That is awesome. We'll read your letter on the air unless you say otherwise.
Now, do not forget our gourmet coffee guideline. Please, don't forget it. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, buy one for us. You know, a few days ago, it would have been a summertime beverage with ice and a little
hot,
condensation. Yes. And then the next day, it was 3 inches of snow and very cold. So it could have been a hot beverage. Any espresso-based beverage is fine. It's all welcome. This is not charity. This is our job. If you can spare $5 a month, please spare $5 a month at patreon.com/proleftpod. Please share our show on social media. And if you love this podcast, please get someone else to listen as well. And thank you for doing that.
And we have heard from a couple of people who donate annually once their income tax refund comes.
Yes.
And we certainly understand that and appreciate it. So if you're waiting to send your one-time donation for the year in when you get your tax refund, fantastic. We understand. The IRS will get that to you and get that to us. And we appreciate you so, so much.
And remember to add a penny for every dollar because we're still operating under the crushing burden, the grocery tax. So just remember that. We still have to pay that until Governor relieves us of that. So,
hey, Drift Class, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, the Internet Kitties are very excited to see the tax on cat treats finally tossed on the ash heap of history.
Hey, let's think about living.
Think about living.
Let's think about loving.
Think about loving.
Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the loving, lovey-dovey.
Lovey-dovey-dovey.
Let's forget about the whine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2024-25, GGBG Productions.